You know that moment when someone pulls away from you, and instead of backing off, you chase them? Or maybe you're the kind of person who has finally found the love of your life, and then suddenly it feels like too much, so you pull away. If this feels familiar, then it's likely you're caught in one of the most exhausting relationships that exist, the anxious-avoidant trap. Now, if you're the one who feels everything intensely, you're hyper-aware of every shift in your partner's energy, every text that takes too long feels like rejection, and the more you feel them pulling away, the more you want to reach out and pull them closer, then you might have an anxious attachment style. And on the other side, if you're someone who craves this deep connection, but you feel suffocated when your partner gets too close, if you feel overwhelmed because they just want too much from you, and it feels as if you don't really know how to respond to them, then you're most likely an avoidantly attached person, which means the two of you are trapped in a cycle where one of you is often chasing and the other is pulling away. And because of that, you've created this relationship that feels intense, addictive, and unstable. One minute there's a huge distance between you, and the next it feels easy, as if you found your soulmate. Now, it's going to be like this forever until one or both of you learn to break that pattern. And that's exactly why in this video, I'm going to explain why this happens, what's driving both sides of this dynamic, and most importantly, how you break that cycle, whether you're still in a relationship or trying to heal after a breakup. So I want to begin with the architecture behind attachment styles and what's really driving these behaviors. Because once you understand that, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Today, we know that attachment styles really begin to form when you are around 6 months old, and by age 2 or 3, they've become established. Here's why. As babies, we depend completely on our parents for survival. When they respond to our cries, feed us, comfort us, our brain learns, I'm safe, I'm loved, people come when I need them, everything is okay. Now, that's how secure attachment forms. But if a parent's responses are inconsistent, sometimes they come right away and soothe the child, and other times they don't respond or take too long, then the child never feels sure when or how their needs will be met. But they do learn to just keep trying, and eventually they will be cared for. Now, what that means is this: inconsistent parenting ultimately leads to a child trying harder. They cry more, cling more, or get fussier because that's the only way they know how to get their parents to respond. This is important because as they grow, that pattern continues to grow with them. They learn to work for love, they become overly helpful, they try to be good, they perform or do whatever it takes to get their parents' attention and their needs met. That's how anxious attachment forms. They've learned that if you want to feel safe and loved, then you just keep reaching out and making some kind of effort. So naturally, over time, this rule becomes your blueprint for safety and love. That's anxious attachment. Now, on the other hand, if a parent is mostly unresponsive, they don't look at the baby, don't pick them up, or they're uncomfortable with affection, then something very different happens. The baby cries, reaches up to be held, and looks to their parent for comfort. They do everything they can to say, I need you, I need love, I need to feel safe, but it doesn't work. And sometimes it even hurts. So pretty quickly, they learn that reaching out for love doesn't bring comfort. It brings pain or nothing at all. Now, this doesn't mean that they stop needing love and safety, but it does mean they stop expecting it. They stopped asking for it, and eventually they stop showing it in ways that risk rejection. And what that really means is this: they suppress their emotions and push them deep down inside because in their world, there's no safe way to express their needs or to have their needs met. Now, as they grow older, this turns into a deep sense of self-reliance, where they learn to handle everything alone, to avoid depending on anyone else, and to feel uneasy when someone expresses strong feelings, asks for a deeper connection, or depends on them emotionally. And that's all because early in life, they needed comfort but had no way to get it. That's how avoidant attachment forms, not from a lack of love, but from a lack of safe, consistent love. Now, when you understand how attachment styles are formed, then naturally you can begin to connect the dots between attachment styles and the anxious-avoidant trap. So let's go ahead and dive into the anxious-avoidant trap, because this is where everything really starts to come together and make sense. Right away, if you're anxiously attached, then you just want this stable, loving relationship where you feel safe, because you feel like you're the kind of person who loves deeply, that you care more than most people do, and you just hate being alone because it feels so unbearable. Now, if you're going through a breakup, you might think to yourself, I did everything I could to show them how much I love them. I just wanted them to understand how much they meant to me. Or I know they're scared, but I'm not giving up on them because I believe in this. Now, here's the truth, whether it's easy to hear or not. The reason you feel that way is because your core wound is abandonment. And what that really means is this: deep down in your subconscious mind, it feels like the people you love will leave you unless you work for their love. But as long as you keep fighting for it, they will eventually care for you, because that's how it worked when you were a child. And because of that, you unconsciously choose partners who are emotionally unavailable, distant, or inconsistent. And then you earn their love. In other words, your blueprint for love is this: I'm lovable, but I have to show that I am. I have to earn it. And I know I've earned it when someone chooses me, stays with me, and keeps reassuring me that I'm loved. And so you hope they realize how good you are together. You wish they would open up and meet you halfway, and you want them to miss you when you're apart. But it also feels like you're begging to be loved. Now, this is the central point, and it needs to be heard clearly. So let me say it another way. If you're anxiously attached, the reason you are attracted to an avoidant is because it feels familiar. Now, it feels familiar because early on, you experienced love as somewhat inconsistent. Sometimes your parent or caregiver was present, and sometimes they were withdrawn. But if you just kept trying, then eventually they would care for you, which means that pattern got wired in as what love feels like. So, when you meet someone who's distant or unpredictable, it matches that early emotional blueprint and it feels familiar because it's the same kind of love you once had to adapt to. On the flip side, if you or your partner is avoidantly attached, then the core wound is engulfment. And what that means is this: they fear that if they let someone get too close, they'll become overwhelmed by that person's emotional needs or demands. And the reason they feel they will become overwhelmed is because the avoidant never learned how to consistently respond to those needs. To put it another way, for the avoidant, emotional needs feel like a dead end because early on, reaching out for comfort didn't always lead to love. It led to nothing or even pain. Now let's put a pin in this for just a second so I can make a distinction between fearful avoidance and dismissive avoidance. For the dismissive avoidant, reaching out never led anywhere. It only brought silence or rejection. So they learned to stop needing anyone altogether. But for the fearful avoidant, reaching out brought both love and pain. Their caregivers were both a source of comfort and a source of fear, which means they learned to crave this closeness, but pull away when it finally comes. Because for them, love was always followed by pain, and pain was always followed by love. So, what it all comes down to for an avoidantly attached person is this: their blueprint for love is, I want love, but I feel safest when things don't get too intense, when I don't have to rely on anyone, and when no one relies on me too much. Which means just as you're starting to feel a really deep connection between you, they're going to say things like, I'm not in a good place for a relationship right now. I need space. You're too emotional. I don't want to hurt you, but you deserve someone better, someone who can give you what you need. Now, here's the real meaning behind that. They really do feel that love, but they've never experienced love as something safe, consistent, and predictable. So when they start to feel this connection building, they naturally become overwhelmed and they pull away. And the reason they become overwhelmed and pull away is because it still feels like they might get hurt, rejected, or ignored. So at first, this person feels like the one, like you've known each other forever. But once an avoidant completely shuts down, you quickly start to ask yourself, was any of it real? Was I just convenient for them? Because they knew I wanted more, so why did they pull away when I loved them so much? Why didn't they just leave me alone? Especially if they didn't want a relationship. Now here's the truth, and stay with me, because this will unlock a whole new level of understanding. The reason they couldn't just leave you alone is this: avoidants are unconsciously drawn to anxiously attached people because something about your emotional intensity feels familiar to them. Not comfortable, but familiar. I want you to really hear this and understand it clearly. You're reaching out to be loved. You're wanting to matter enough to be seen and chosen, and you're longing to feel safe and loved. And that feels familiar to them because it's exactly what they did as a child. And what that ultimately means to you is this: they want to give you love in the way that you need, but they don't really know how or what that means because they never learned how love was supposed to work. They've never experienced love as something safe, consistent, and predictable. So naturally, it all becomes overwhelming for them and they just shut down. So if you are avoidantly attached, then at this point, you've probably told yourself, I stayed longer than I should have because I cared, but I just couldn't say what I really felt. And honestly, it was easier to disappear than to explain something I don't even understand. I cared more than I let on. I just didn't know how to show it. And every time we got close, it felt like something bad would happen. So to put it simply, avoidants are unconsciously drawn to anxiously attached people because a part of them, on some level, recognizes this deep emotional desire to feel close to someone. And the reason they recognize it is because it mirrors their own childhood longing to feel this sense of love and reassurance, even if they never got that as a child. And anxiously attached people are drawn to avoidance because chasing connection, proving your worth, and trying to get love from someone who's inconsistent or distant feels familiar to them because it mirrors their childhood. They're used to working for love and eventually getting it, which means on a deep subconscious level, they are hoping that this time, if they try hard enough, they'll finally win the love that stays. So at this point, if we strip all of that down to its core, what it really means is this. You're both picking each other because on a subconscious level, you're trying to replay and resolve your childhood wounds. Now, the problem is you can't heal a wound by recreating it over and over again. You just deepen it. And that's why this dynamic feels so intense, so addictive, and so impossible to walk away from. Because it's not just about the other person. It's about what they represent to the deepest, most wounded part of you. Okay, let's step back and I'll walk you through exactly how this cycle plays out. Because once you learn it, you'll recognize it everywhere. In the beginning, everything feels amazing. The avoidant feels safe because there's still distance. You haven't fully committed yet, so they can enjoy this connection without feeling trapped, without having to give more than they know how to give. And the anxious partner is really starting to feel secure because they're pursuing the avoidant, showing interest, and it's working. Now, this is the only phase where both of you feel good at the same time. If you're anxious, you feel so seen, like this person just gets you. And if you're avoidant, it's like they just make you want to try, even if you aren't sure if you're ready for something deeper yet. But then something happens. Maybe the anxious partner starts wanting more commitment. Maybe they express a deeper emotional need, or maybe they just start feeling more secure and stop performing for their attention. And because that happens, the avoidant starts to feel like they're losing control. And they feel that way because they are unsure of what to do. This is the end of their emotional blueprint, because what followed next for them as a child was unpredictable. So their core wound of engulfment is triggered, which obviously means they pull back, they become distant, cold, busy, or shut down completely. And as a result of that, it triggers the anxious partner's core wound of abandonment. And they begin what's called protest behavior, which means you reach out more, You ask what's wrong, you try harder to reconnect, just like when you were a child. You might get highly emotional, try more ways to express your needs, try different ways, or even create conflict just to get a reaction. Because for anxiously attached people, even negative attention is better than no attention. It all comes back to learning that if you keep reaching out for love, you'll get it. But here's the problem. The more you pursue, the more uncertain, the more suffocated, and the more overwhelmed the avoidant feels, to the point where eventually they will shut down completely. They go cold, they stop responding, or they end the relationship. And this is devastating if you're the anxious partner, because it confirms your deepest fear that you weren't good enough for them, so they left. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Once the anxious partner finally finds a way to let go, to stay in no contact, and to stop chasing, that's when the avoidant starts to relax and feel calm, because now the threat is gone. And eventually, they start to miss you. They start to reach out and they want to reconnect. Not always, and not as soon as you would like, but that's okay. Because the critical point here is this: if the two of you do get back together and no one has worked on their attachment issues, then the cycle will start all over again. That is the anxious avoidant trap. It starts with you falling for each other. The anxious person wants more from the relationship, and that feels overwhelming to the avoidant partner, which means they start pulling away. And because they pull away, the anxious person is triggered and starts chasing them. Then the chasing causes the avoidant partner to withdraw even more until there's no contact and some time has passed, allowing a sense of calm to settle in, and the avoidant feels safe enough to return. Now, this is the blind spot that keeps people stuck. If you miss this next part, it will cost you everything. But understand it, and you'll change your life and your relationship for good. Now, this might be hard to hear, but I'm saying it because I want things to get easier for you. If you're anxiously attached, if you're the anxious one in this dynamic, here's what you need to understand. Your need for closeness, reassurance, and connection is not wrong. It's not too much, and you're not the problem. But neither is your partner. The problem is you're expecting someone to feel and behave in a way that feels right for you, but not them. So let me be blunt. There are 3 things you have to face. 1, you're trying to get security from an insecure source. You're asking an insecure person to fix your insecurity. You're looking to your avoidant partner to make you feel safe. But at this point, they can't. They're not capable of giving you consistent reassurance because they are wired to pull away when asked for that, which really means you're asking someone who's emotionally unavailable to make you feel emotionally secure. And that's like trying to get water from a stone. You're sacrificing yourself to avoid feeling abandoned, all in an effort to keep them close. You sacrifice your own needs, you ignore red flags, and you tolerate breadcrumbs. You twist yourself into knots trying to be the perfect partner, thinking that if you just do it right, they'll finally give you what you need. But the truth is, you're losing yourself to keep them from leaving. And that's the part that's hurting you the most. And last, you're mistaking anxiety for love. This one's hard to face, but it's critical to understand. If a relationship makes you feel constantly anxious, insecure, and unsure, that's not love. That's your nervous system in survival mode. Real love feels safe, it feels secure, and it feels steady. Now, if it's real love, you still feel that passion and excitement with this person, but the foundation is security, not anxiety. And if you can't tell the difference between the two, then that's a sign you need to heal your attachment style, not fight harder for this relationship. Now, if you're watching this and you're the avoidant one, or if you're trying to understand your avoidant partner, here's what you have to know. 1. Independence is not the same as healthy boundaries. Avoidants pride themselves on being independent and not needing anyone. But here's the truth. That's not strength. That's a defense mechanism. Healthy relationships require interdependence. And what that means is the ability to allow yourself to rely on someone and let them rely on you. If you can't do that, you're not independent. You're just isolated. 2, needing space is valid, but using it to avoid intimacy is not. Everyone needs space sometimes, but if you're constantly using I need space as a way to avoid difficult conversations, emotional vulnerability, or deeper connection, then that's not self-care. That's avoidance. And if you keep doing it, it will destroy every relationship you have. And 3, I know when you shut down, it feels like you're protecting yourself. But here's what's really happening. You're protecting your wound. Avoidants feel like they're protecting themselves by turning inward and pulling away. But what you're really protecting is your wound, your fear of engulfment, your fear of the unknown that comes with being emotionally open. And ultimately, as long as you're protecting that wound, you'll never heal it. So now the question becomes, how do you break this cycle? Well, here's the truth. If you're still in the relationship, or if you've broken up, it takes self-awareness, clear boundaries, and healing work. And what that means for the anxious partner is this: stop chasing. Instead of pursuing a partner who pulls away, practice meeting your own needs and doing the things that you find calming. And remember that constant chasing reinforces your fear of not being good enough. Next, set boundaries. Decide what level of communication and consistency you need, and get clear on what you can tolerate in a relationship and what is a deal breaker for you. And last, build your own internal sense of security. Cultivate a fulfilling life independent of your partner through friendships, hobbies, and personal goals. This makes you less dependent on them, and it strengthens your emotional resilience. One easy step you can take right now is to remind yourself that their actions are about their wounds, not about you. Now, for the avoidant partner, the general guideline here is this: it's critical that you stop running, which means you must resist the urge to pull away from someone even when it feels uncomfortable. Lean into conversations and emotional moments as a way to teach yourself that intimacy is not dangerous. It won't feel natural at first, but Communicate your needs before withdrawing. If you need space, express it clearly rather than just shutting down. And remind yourself that healthy boundaries include advance notice, not just disappearing. And lastly, take the time to explore the root cause of your fear of intimacy. This will allow you to see that fear for what it really is and break those repetitive patterns. Now, one simple shortcut you can take is this. When your partner is asking you to open up emotionally, notice if you feel like shutting down, then stop and do the exact opposite. Don't think about it, just notice it and do the reverse. It takes practice, but you'll be surprised at how good it feels when you're really starting to connect on a deeper level. Now, if you're post-breakup, then there's one rule that consistently applies, and that's to go no contact. Because this gives you both a way to get clear on what you want, what you need, and how to move forward without spinning out of control. You can get my resources for doing that in the description below. Right now, though, if you're ready to break the anxious cycle, here's what I want you to do. First, watch my video on the 3 stages of an avoidant coming back, because it will help you understand what's really happening on their side and if getting back together is even possible. Second, if you found this helpful, then hit that like and subscribe button, because it really helps me know what kind of content to make next. Now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.